everybody. I'm Bill Sanders, and this is WatchArtSci, the art and science of watch collection. Um, Today, we're going to be talking about what sometimes is called gray markets, but that's really not a good description. I think that we're going to look at you're getting a watch from an AD and a non-AD. Okay. Now, really, what we're talking about is are two things. One is you're going into, like, for example, we're going to take a look at some boutiques in New York City, and then we're going to pay a visit to my guy on 47th Street. And the the other place is sort of in the ether, so to speak. It's in the internet, and the buying and selling of watches doesn't require physical presence. In fact, there are a lot of disadvantages to a physical presence, and I'll explain that in a bit. But first, what I want to do is start with the watch of the week. Now, the watch this week probably will surprise some people because it's a little different than what we normally have. For example, last time we had this beautiful FP Journe quartz watch that was really very nice. We've had some other ones that were fairly expensive, but this watch in many ways represents what I consider to be a true watch collection. And this is from Luke Murphy Gregory from Tasmania, and he picked this up in a store for $70, 70 US dollars. It was the I forgot what it was, the Australian dollars, but it's about $70 US, which is about pretty close to 70 euros and about maybe 60 pounds sterling. But anyway, so this is it. It's a Zenith, and it's a Zenith Stellina. And when we take a look at it, the watch has got it. It's very interesting in so many ways. First of all, when we look at the dial, it's got two numbers on it. It's got a 12 and a 6. Well, it turns out that there aren't a lot of Stellina watches that have just a 12 and a 6. Some of them have the 12, the 3, the 6, the 9. Some had the 12, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I mean, some had 12 only, just the 12 at the top. Others just had the markers only. My Calatrava had just the hour markers. That's not an unusual kind of combination. Others had the 12 all the way around to every one of the hour markers has a time on it. This one just has a 12 and 6. I can't remember seeing another one like this in terms of other watches, and I'm sure there are, but I just haven't seen them. And so I went trying to find another one of these, and first of all, I wanted to be sure. Well, hey, this thing is legit, and it is. I found another one that was exactly like it, and I found a couple other ones that had the 12 and the 6 that were made by Zenith, but they weren't the Stellina, or they were an automatic or something like that. But yeah, they had them. The one I found that was exactly like this one, that had just the 12 and the 6, and it was a Zenith Stellina, was 450 euros. So I think that Luke probably found a real gem here, and this is what I like about watch collection. It doesn't have to be the most expensive watch in the world, and what Luke got, I think that's important. He got a good watch. I mean, Zenith has a good reputation. This particular one has a 2541 manual. It's in-house, of course, And it was right before they came out, well, not right before, but just a little before they came out in the 90s, first of all with the elite movement, and then they had the El Primero. This one has the 2541, which is a good solid movement, and he got a nice one too. He sent me the picture on the bottom, shows that movement is as clean as a whistle. Uh, anyway, so I thought it'd be sort of I really like this watch, and I really like sort of the mindset behind it. You know, here you're a watch collector. You can get a good watch. A Zenith will always be a Zenith. A cheap watch will always be a cheap watch. And so if you buy a brand new one and you pay, some thing with some cheap movement in it, it's never going to change. It's always going to have that cheap movement in it. Same thing with a good watch. You buy a good watch and it's always going to have a good movement in it. It's not a matter of how much you pay for it. It's just a matter of sort of looking for something that's good, and Luke found it. So anyway, so that's sort of a cool watch, and I want to thank Luke for letting us use it on WatchArtSci. Okay, what I'm going to start with today is a lot of people's attitude about, well, I'm going to buy all my watches from an authorized dealer, and I'm going to pay full price, like a good boy or a good girl. The thing is, I've got nothing against authorized dealers, okay? None whatsoever. And I know all of the work they do to keep the price high. Now, they talk about keeping the value high. There's a difference between keeping the value high and keeping the price high. There's a lot of advertisement. There's all of these things for a watch. This is one reason that I really like the Harboring 2. My little Harboring 2. I don't know if they advertise at all. I found them through two different sources. One was, I think, at the Watch Snob, it said something. He's a good watch. And then I checked out the Grand Prix Award. Here's this little company making handmade watches. First, they were sort of like they were supercharging Valdez, and then they came out with their own movement. And they've won 3 Grand Prix awards. Omega has won 1, and they're a great big company. So, I mean, like, this, I feel like, when I have something like this, I'm paying for the watch, I'm paying for the movement. I'm not paying for all of this other stuff. Because if you're going to advertise or you're going to have a big something or other, you're going to pay for it. I mean, this stuff doesn't come free. So I think it's important for us as collectors. If you're in the watch business, that's great. And this is nothing against the watch business, by the way. We'd all be lost if these companies weren't successful. Excuse me. Anyway, but let's face it, we can afford what we can afford. Now, let's say, for example, that we went to an authorized dealer and say, well, what's the advantage of going to an authorized dealer? Well, there are a few. Well, we'll make sure we're not going to sell you a phony watch and things like that, and that's important. But what if they said, hey, I tell you what, if you buy a watch from us, we will take care of the first servicing at no cost to you. Hey, now that's something that's really valuable. That is something that's worth the extra cost. But do they do that? No, at least that I know of. In fact, there's some companies that I won't mention that really put it to the collector or the owner when they send their watch in. They get these ridiculous bills that just I hate not to trust a company's service center, but when that becomes sort of like the concession stand at a movie where most of the money is made by the popcorn and candy and not the movie, it's the same thing. So once there is a real value added to the consumer, that's us. We're the guys that have to shell out the money for these things. This doesn't come from a money tree, and the advertisement is to entice us. Okay, we get that. There's nothing wrong with that. But on the other hand, what if we can pay a fraction of it? Should we do it or not? Well, it depends how much money you have. If you're really rich and you got all the money in the world, you have nothing to worry about, I'd rather go into a boutique, have the beautiful attendant come there and help you and be really nice and everything. But I'm not going to pay $10,000 for that. And so we have to look elsewhere. Now, fortunately, I live not too far from New York City. And instead of being a good Boy Scout, I go to the other scout troop. If you go to New York, you're not going to get directions to the boutique. You're going to get directions to 47th Street. Excuse me again. So let's talk about what 47th Street is. Now, if you live in Squash Dog, Mississippi, or someplace like that, you can't come running over to New York, and I'll just run down to 47th Street. 47th Street really represents another outlet. It's more generic, and in fact, most of the sales that they do on 47th Street is not directly by like someone like me walking in there and say, "Hey, I want to buy a watch," but rather by online. Okay, a lot of the companies that do online business are located in 47th Street. Now, the thing about 47th Street is that it's an area just off of Fifth Avenue. It's called the Diamond District, and there was something that the watch snob said. This is a quote from the watch snob. He says he's talking about buying a watch over $5,000. He said, "Here you'll simply want to find a great gray market dealer. Go to 47th Street in New York City and walk in any one of their stores. They all work together and they all have whatever you're looking for. If you want a Patek World Timer at a $40,000 watch, just let them know. They'll get you a brand new one with box and papers for 30% off. Want an AP Royal Oak chrono that hasn't hit the market? Forget paying $20,000. You'll be paying $14,000 without batting an eye. Only a fool pays retail, even in the high-end game." Okay, now, for some people say, well, the watch companies are going to go out of business if we don't buy from the authorized dealers. And they certainly will be hurt, but I'll tell you what'll run them out of business quicker is not getting rid of stock. And basically what happens is that the overreach and stock has got to go somewhere. Now, it can either go back to the manufacturer, it can sit on the shelves forever in the authorized dealers, and in some cases, the brand company says you cannot discount these prices. And so what are you going to do? Not a whole lot. So this is where sort of the non-ADs come in. And the term gray market is what's usually used, but I don't think that's an accurate term. These are simply people who are buying either used watches, pre-owned watches, or they're getting brand new ones that are an overflow. If you go to Chrono 24, the percent of watches that are brand new is often higher than the pre-owned ones. So, I mean, got a lot of watches. Now, the Asian crisis took a big hunk out of it. Okay, what I want to start with, I'm going to start with a new watch. Okay, now this is the Patek Philippe Gondola. I don't know if the Gondola is one of the more popular watches that Patek has, but I love them. I think they're the coolest watches, and for a long time I wanted one, but I haven't been able to get one for because you didn't have the money to go out and blow it on something else. Okay. All right. So the authorized dealer for this particular watch, what they call the manufacturer's suggested list price, is $25,335. Okay. Now for a non-AD, now this is a company that sells brand new stock. And this particular one would be one like JomaShop.com is an example of this. Now, Joma Shop is all online. Even though they're located in Brooklyn, they're online. Their price is $18,495. This is a savings of $6,840. It's a difference of 27%. That's, I mean, some people, just on the savings, you could buy a really good watch. So it's not that I don't think that any of us as collectors have anything against the authorized dealers. It's just that the price is so high. Now, even at 18,000 bucks, that's a lot of money. Okay, so that's one of the things. Now, the other part of it is sort of the area of used watches. If you live in some place that's not near a big city, you're going to do stuff online. We're going to go to New York City. We'll go down to 47th Street, take the train down. We're in Connecticut, so we have to take the Metro North down to Grand Central Terminal, or Grand Central Station, as I think most people know it. And then we'll head over to 47th Street. And then we got an interview with one of the guys who I bought a watch from. In fact, I got my FP Journe from this particular dealer, and I may buy another one from him, and if not an FP Journe, something, because he has a lot of access to watches. Okay, so let's head on over to New York City. Here we are in Grand Central Station, and we're going to be heading over to Madison Avenue and then 47th Street for our meeting with the person who knows how to sell watches. Hi, this is Bill Sanders. I'm on 47th Street in New York City, and we're going to go see one of the people who can do a very good deal on watches, and you don't have to come to New York City. Anyway, okay, this is Andrei Kotelnikov.
Kotelnikov.
Okay, great.
It's hard to pronounce for everybody. Yeah.
Especially for me. Yeah. I'm terrible with pronunciation. Okay, this is at Luxury Horology on 47th Street in New York City. And a number of you saw my FP Journe. This is something that I got here at Luxury Horology. But I wanted to talk to Andre about getting watches that some of the collectors might be interested in. So let me ask you, in general, what are the most common ones that you get?
Well, I usually get like lower end watches in the range between 1 and 5,000, like Omega, Breitling, Cartier, because this kind of watches is easier to get and much easier to sell. But sometimes I also buy like higher end if I'm able to get it at the right price and in condition that is good, and I'm able to sell it. Couple of times a month I get pieces like FP Journe, Patek, Vacheron, Audemars, something like that.
Okay, now are these, because most people can't come to New York City and bother you like I do. Mm-hmm. Let's see, where would they go? Is that the Luxury Horology on Chrono 24?
They can go to Chrono 24. The Chrono 24 just introduced the Chrono 24 Trusted checkout, where they send money to Chrono 24, and Chrono 24 releases payment to me after 7 days. So the buyer has ability to check the watch out, make sure it's authentic, make sure everything is okay with this watch, and if not, they just call Chrono 24 and they send item back to me. So, because I know most of the people, they kind of afraid to buy like high-end items online, you know. And this way, if they go through Chrono 24, they are protected by Chrono 24.
Okay, all right. So where do most of your watches come from?
Most of them, I go to the watch trade show in the United States. It's called IWJG show. So I buy the watches there most of the time. Also, within the street, there is like a New York street, 47th Street. There is a lot of people who buy watches, who sell watches, who trade. You know. So about 70% of my inventory comes from IWJG, and 30% comes from this street in New York.
Okay. And is it possible, let's say that someone was looking for a particular watch, could they send you an email and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for, and
Sure.
even though you wouldn't have it, is possible to get it from you?
Sure, maybe. I don't guarantee that I can find it, but I can try and look into it. Yes.
What if they would be something like this, say, look, this is what I can afford, and I want, let's say they want a Panerai.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, oh, I can afford this, and you could tell them, well, we probably couldn't sell it to you for that, or let me look. How would you go about doing that?
Well, if they see something that I have in stock, sure they can send an offer. If it's like a reasonable offer, most likely will accept it. If it's too low, I'm just gonna say this is too low, no, and I'm not able to accept it. But if they want like specific model, they can like email me, look, Andrew, can you find for me like this Panerai, this Rolex at this amount? And I'm gonna look into it, and I'm gonna tell them like straight away, yes, it's possible, or no, your offer is too low.
Okay. All right. So they don't have to come to 47th Street to get a hold of you.
No.
Okay. All right, Andre, I will let everybody know is that this is another, instead of having to go down to your local store, they can come all the way to 42nd Street, or 47th Street.
47th, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you've met one of the 47th Street dealers. The office that Andre has is just a little sparse office. Now, the reason that that's important, you don't want someone with a big, expensive office in Manhattan because you're paying a fortune for any kind of real estate in that area. On Fifth Avenue and Madison Avenue, I don't even want to guess what the boutiques have to pay there, but I know it's a lot. So I'll leave it at that. Okay, well, we've had a little adventure today, and I'd really like to hear from you and what your thoughts on this are. Maybe you think, hey, we better, maybe going to an AD is really what we should do, or let's see if we can get something so that we're not the we're not the last people that are considered in the watch business. Okay, let's hear from you. Leave a comment, and also too, if you'd like to subscribe, you're more than welcome. And we'll see you on Sunday. Hey, we got a really nice group of watches to take a look at on Sunday. Hope to see you then. Bill Sanders for WatchArtSci.